Do you know that purchasing a home and selling a home is, to most people, one of the most scariest things that they'll do, whether they do it the first, second, or third time? And there's some of the reasons why is because there's a lot of unknowns to them and they're not familiar, particularly with the process. One of the things that's scary to a lot of people is the title company and seeing the settlement statement with all those line items and all those numbers. And most people just want to make sure they don't pay more than they actually need to. And so, what I want to let you know today that the title company is not scary. They are there to protect you, and they serve as a neutral third party that helps to make sure that promises are kept. My name is Carolyn Fleary, and I am a real estate agent in Prince George's County and the surrounding area. And I serve all the wonderful people here. And today I'm going to talk to you about 3 ways that the title company can protect you. As I mentioned, for a lot of people, it's scary and it shouldn't have to be. The title company acts as that neutral third party, and a lot of people getting into the transaction, they don't know who to trust. Well, let me tell you, you don't have to trust the buyer, you don't have to trust the seller. All you need to do is trust the title company. They're there to make sure that you are protected. There's a lot of room for fraud, right? And so no one wants to get taken advantage of. And that's where the title company is there to take all the risk. So let's jump into those 3 ways. And I want you to save this video and share it with someone who would also like to find out 3 ways that the title company can protect one. So let's go ahead and start with number 1. They prevent fraud, as I mentioned. One of the biggest obstacles is to establish that trust. And in staying a neutral third party, they take on all the risk. For the buyer, they hold the funds until the seller provides the deed. And for the seller, it protects the seller by preventing the documents from going to the buyer until they provide the funds for the transaction and prove that they can afford it. So only trust the title company. Number 2 is that the title company will hold the deposit. When a home is purchased, the buyer will put down about 1% of the home's offer price for a earnest money deposit. And that's there to show the seller that they're really serious. Once that payment is made and received by the title company, then that's when the contract will actually begin. So they ensure that this money is held in a neutral account and make sure that it's applied appropriately. If for some reason either the buyer backs out or the seller backs out, the title company is there to ensure that, for example, the buyer gets their money back or that the seller receives the funds in case the buyer backs out without any reason. Number 3 is that the title company, they keep the money from going to the seller prematurely. So what do I mean by that? In a real estate transaction, there might be multiple contingencies, and a contingency is something that must occur before one would proceed. So for example, a home inspection, right? You go perform a home inspection as a buyer, you find all this stuff, and you and the seller come to an agreement about fixing X, Y, and Z. Well, the title company wants to ensure that all of those things as agreed have been satisfied between the buyer and the seller before they proceed with either giving the deed to the or transferring the deed over to the buyer or providing payments to the seller. So they want to make sure that all of those things are in place. And there's a lot of other things that go on to it. That's why having a trusted title company and a real estate agent are going to be great for your transaction. So I understand that most people feel overwhelmed when they see all those line items for closing costs in the settlement sheet. And I also know that the last thing that anybody wants to do is to pay more than they need to. But I promise that using a title company is worth its weight in gold, and it's imperative that you use it, whether you're a buyer, a seller, or both. So if you have any questions on the concepts that I talked about today, or if you're thinking about making a move, Be sure to reach out. You can text me at 202-335-6714. It's best to reply to my post. You can also send me a DM and be sure to tag someone who could use this information. I want to thank you for joining me today, and I'll see you next time.